Okay, let's get this meeting started. Oh, you know what? The one thing I do want to say is, take a look at, everybody say hi, everybody.
Hello.
All right, so a couple of the reasons why I want to record this. I do want to follow up with a few other things today, but some fantastic stuff that's been happening. You know, I had a conversation, text conversation with our good law enforcement buddy here locally, right? With Chris, just letting him know on a regular basis, and I hope you guys do too, for our president, for our people in position of leadership and a position of power, is that we pray for those people on a regular basis, right? Wisdom and discernment, and obviously blessings and health. And so, but he just happened to mention that, you know, I said, I hope the year started out well for you. He said, hey, 2020 was one of the greatest years I ever had in my life. 2021's already started out that way. And I commented to him, you know, I realize that I have a face for radio. I do. I know that. But people look at me when I say to them, hey, you know, Happy New Year, those first few days, right, that first week. And they say, oh, yeah, well, I hope this one's better than the last one. I said, 2020 was a great year. And they literally look at me like I do have a face for radio. So, or a third eye. I'm not for sure which. But, so I hope that you, because our mental attitude, a positive mental attitude, right? PMA. It's so important. Every aspect of our life is benefited by having a positive mental attitude. So let's continue, because I know people in this group, we are, for the most part, entrepreneurs. We have a worldview of let's get out and make it happen. You know, one of the things I've been saying, because I watched a motivational video on it, and one of the catchphrases was no more 0 days. No more 0 days. What's a 0 day? A 0 day is where you just don't do anything. You don't do nothing productive. Now, I know what people will say is, well, you need to just unwind and veg out and recharge the batteries. Whatever you need, I'm okay with that. But every single day, we should make a point of being a value add for us and for those around us. And I think in this group, we have a bunch of people that believe in no more 0 days. So, a couple of the things that I wanted to cover. And Bob, thank you so much for the stuff that you've given us here. Let's take a look at this. The Constitution of the United States of America. We are a constitutional republic. We've got a whole bag of these here. Thank you so much for being able to include this. And we'll keep some of these around too, so that as other people, continue to join, we can make sure that we have that. Because, you know, you may have seen a video or two of, take that one. You may have seen a video or two of, you know, I've got the little pocket one at home that I keep on the desk. Let's keep this in our car. Let's keep it with us, right? And then also, before we leave here today, don't leave. We're going to do a little bit of a raffle. We'll figure out a way. And we will, we got, what is it, $25 gift card, compliments of Bob and at ADT, right? We want to promote, that's part of the promotion of people that we work with that are committed to this. And so, I did not know, or was not aware of, until 10:45 last night, that apparently President Trump had conceded. Now, a few people said to me, he didn't concede anything. Listen to that speech very closely. I haven't had a chance to. I was exhausted last night by 10:45. But for about 45 minutes before I actually went to bed, it hurt. I was like, what? Man. And I've said this before. If I was wrong at any time about my convictions of what I am fighting for, the legitimacy of things, I'll take it. I'll take it. Because I believe I was fighting for a just and right cause. And so I hope, and I did a video this morning, if you didn't get a chance to look at it, it doesn't look like, you know, only one or two people did. But when I talk about, again, what is CWC? Champion, Warrior, Christian. That was my original, how I saw the world. I wrote it down in 1989. And then, to create a business model, right, it was consulting. And it's been transport, and it's been other things. But what is it that we have that is a right and just cause that we would want to be a warrior for? Well, a warrior is not just about a physical altercation. Now, I mentioned it this morning, and I want to follow up, and this is the reason why I had to preface everything else I want to go through, is that non-violent action. Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. got more done without ever firing a shot. And then I got to the scrapyard, and I had to end the video and get on with life because I had to get here, right? But the greatest example of non-violent warrior is Jesus Christ. To defeat death, that is the greatest example of all time of the non-violent warrior. Now, I've been quoted as saying, you know what, if you look back in the Old Testament, Israel fell away from God. They were allowed to be ruled by others. They were allowed to have people that did not have their worldview in charge of them and govern them. They also fought many wars. And it was when it, again, what I'm telling you is when it was a 0% chance, the walls of Jericho fell because of divine intervention. And when you're going to go to war and God says to you, I know you got a few thousand people there, but when you go down to that source of water and you start to drink your men, you eliminate them until it is such a small fighting force that without divine intervention, you cannot win. And so when we look at being, a peace beyond all understanding, that's internal. And we just have to be fighting for a right and just cause. And I do believe that we have a real battle ahead of us, and we need to be stronger together, like-mindedness, having conversations that are positive about defending the constitutional republic that is the United States of America. So, what I want to get to is, I'm going to go through a few things. And Ray loves story time. So we got story time today, and it's all for, hey, do we appreciate the world famous smoked ham by Ray? Let's give him a big hand, huh? Let's give him a big hand. All right. All right, so I'm just going to go through the headlines of things that I hope you guys pick up and read. You can take these things home, right? So, coming to a classroom, white people and their unearned privilege. So, this is how BLM is poisoning our children. If you don't think that this is a legitimate effort to undermine what the truth is in our public classrooms, you're mistaken. Please, pick that one up. Here is another one by Trish Reagan. Biden is underestimating China, and it's a mistake. Thank you, Steve Sarkon, for sending the videos. We have long been reading about the Belt and Road Initiative of the Chinese Communist Party, and we see where you just sent us some stuff today. So if you want me to text it to you, please text me a request, and I will. But you sent where you have wind farm, Communist Chinese Party wind farms right next to a large naval base in Texas, buying up land in Iowa that has access to the Mississippi River. We know that they've been spending a lot of money in the Bahamas because they need a Caribbean port. And, the things are, this is real stuff, folks. This is real stuff. So that's another article right there. Is this the end of the coronavirus pandemic? This is talking about the COVID-19 vaccine by P.J. O'Rourke. Situational update. This was on January 4th. And what Mike Adams, and I shared this in a video, what Mike Adams is talking about is the election theater is cover for global extermination agenda. You read it and make your own decision, but you're not going to find this stuff in the mainstream media. This is the turning point in America's history. And this was yesterday, I think, when I got this email originally. But this is an article by Bill Bonner. And if you're not familiar with Bill Bonner, I think he's one of the greatest, not just publishing minds, but I think he's one of the greatest American writers that we've had in a long time. He has such a way of putting things pen to paper. Biden's America. This gives you an example of what we can expect from a policy standpoint. And I'm not even so sure he understands what's going to happen, but it's not a pretty sight. Tika Tuari's Palm Beach Daily, the best low-risk, high-reward investment in 2021. Hey, folks, Chris Simon, thank you very much for being part of the cryptocurrency team and enlightenment. And there's a number of others here that understand this, but the fiat United States of America petrodollar is about to go through a significant change, folks. And digital currency is what the International Monetary Fund, it's what the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, look these things up. They've been talking about this for a while. The Great Reset is upon us. And if you do not already have a digital currency wallet, you need to work with us. That's what we're doing here. We're trying to help people prepare. I know that people have sent me a number of texts recently and saying, hey, when the shit hits the fan, we need to get together, put a plan together. And I said, we've been planning for 3 years. This group, whether or not you want to recognize it or not, this group is a plan of action. We are stronger together. We have a plan. I mean, listen, when it comes right down to water and beans, if you've got water and beans in your basement, you're going to be able to live a long time when our supply chains are shut down. Just think about walking into or standing in line, first of all. I was beside myself, standing in front of Trader Joe's in Rochester. Hey, we got to get something. And this was during, back in April. And I'm standing in line 6 feet from the person in front of me outside before I can go into a store. It's blowing my, this is not our country anymore that we have, used to experiencing. I mean, listen, folks, I've been saying it for years, and most everybody in here believes that they've had the virus. All year long I've been saying it. Everybody's going to get this thing. They told us it's multiple times more contagious than the flu. We're going to get it. And we're 99.99% of us are going to be just fine. So let's not change the world. Let's not accept changing the world. Let's resist and fight for our liberties. And how do we do that? Again, non-violently. So, moving on. The preview, another one for the Biden economy, and this is from the Daily Reckoning. And that's some good stuff, for sure. Lockdown measures are catastrophic for recovering addicts and mental health. This is a fantastic article talking about a gentleman in Minneapolis, and since the lockdowns, our suicides and opioid addictions are off the charts. Literally, they're having a hard time charting it. Another one, America's youth is struggling with the pandemic, and this is from American Consequences. Lockdowns are killing young adults. And we know, because we have a relationship with United Community Addiction Network, and we know the important aspect of being able to be there for the most vulnerable amongst us. Yes, Steve?
Update from my son working at the hospital in Grand Rapids.
Update from your son working at the hospital in Grand Rapids.
He, on Christmas, day after Christmas, he worked a 6 p.m. to 3 in the morning shift, and 45 patients that he dealt with that night were all mental health patients, all on suicide watch.
So the day after Christmas, which we all know for people that are suffering from challenges with addiction and mental health issues, the holidays are tough, right? Because so many of us have suffered with those types of things because we just don't have the right perspective on our life, right? We've got a lot of pain in our life. We want to take that pain away. And so you're saying that your son experienced a 6 p.m. shift the day after Christmas. The 45 patients he saw in that 12-hour shift were all mental health issues, dealing with them.
Not overrun with COVID at all. It's all mental health. I don't know what to do. He had to talk him off the ledge for 9 hours. 45 patients.
Thank you for that update. Now, I will tell you that I'm not a policymaker. I would like to believe I could be a good reference for somebody in a position to make policy. But I remember, and I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but I question whether or not it is not by design There used to be a facility in Lapeer County, Michigan. It was Oakdale. If you drive through Plymouth, Michigan, there was a prison, I think, and then there was also a huge mental health hospital. Now, I'm going to touch base on some other things here in a minute, but we have abandoned, in so many ways, really being able to address those issues. And I just see where they have lied to us, and I'll quote the 2017 or 2018 December Michigan State study, that the pot smoker, not the cannabis user, but the pot smoker has significant less inflammation than the non-pot smoker. Now, coming from a person that suffers from head to toe arthritis, significant. I am 30 years advanced, according to the doctors, of arthritis. I mean, I have no meniscus in either knee. I have 2 replaced hips. I mean, this is what I have to look forward to. But they told us, and I've never been able to figure out how there is a health benefit to inhaling the smoke from a burning object that's going to supersede the damage that you do to yourself, until I read, and I did, I read the entire report from Michigan State, that the pot smoker has significantly less inflammation than the non-pot smoker. I'm not a pot smoker. But they told me my entire life that you'd be dead by now. But that's not what killed my friends. Alcohol killed my friends, the ones that are dead. And some others have died from opioids, but not from cannabis. They told us it was going to kill us. It's medicine, folks. And it's been around a long time. And so, even though I'm not a cannabis user on a regular basis, I'm not a pot smoker at all. But what are we finding out? They are telling us that the pot smoker, it's killing the COVID. Again, another reason why you might want to consider being a pot smoker. All right, I digress. Where did all the fake money go? Think about this. Bill Bonner writes a great article about where is all this fake money going. If you wonder where your stimulus check is, or the remainder of it, if you didn't already get it, right? You're like, where's my $2,000? If you look at these numbers and the people that have broke these numbers down, the people, aren't getting any of this money. Not in comparison to what is actually being legislated. The $600, the $1,200, the $2,000, that's not jack squat. The billions that is going overseas, the trillions that are going to the big banks. Remember, in 2020, I had a great year. But I do know that my net worth decreased. Many middle-class Americans' net worth decreased. But whose did not? The wealthiest, the billionaires in this country, added over $1 trillion to their net worth during this time. Folks, we need to connect the dots. This is some real stuff here. 2020's good news, John Stossel. And, one of the things that I would tell you in that article, if you read it, is that we need to be thankful that coronavirus hit us in 2020. Why? Because if you, and I probably should just look at this real quick, because if this would have happened at some other time, then you would not have been able to, we didn't have the technology to deal with it. You couldn't have gene sequenced any of this stuff any earlier. Okay, so he says, it's the best year in human history to face a pandemic. Had the pandemic occurred in 2005, you wouldn't have had the technology to create an mRNA vaccine, which, again, maybe that's a good thing. We'll see. I'm not signing up for it. In 1990, we wouldn't have had a World Wide Web. If with this pandemic would have taken place in 1976, we wouldn't have been able to read the genome in the virus. And in 1950, we wouldn't have had a single ventilator. So when I say we are living in the greatest time as a human being, the easiest times, remember if you were at one of the meetings when I talked about the tail is now wagging the dog. Because Henry Ford was the wealthiest man on the planet. And yet, his head still sweltered up with sweat because there was no indoor air conditioning. And yet, the poorest among us live in air conditioning with a microwave, dishwasher, and yet this country is somehow wrong? I mean, just think about what we have progressed to. Now, again, these are modern conveniences. I'm not necessarily arguing that the quality of life is better than if we were alive 150 years ago and chopping our own wood for heat source every single day. I'm not saying that the quality of life, but it's from an ease standpoint, living in America as an American citizen, it's hard to be any easier, right? And yet we're not staying focused on what we need to. Gold stock mania is on its way. This talks about mining stocks and the fact that if you do not already have a position, a part of your portfolio in silver and gold, as well as the cryptocurrencies, we've been talking about this for years. You need to get with us. This was another one here. Jim Rickards talked about the currency situation, devaluing currency and stuff, manipulating it between China and America. And he talked about, and this is a couple years ago, he talked about it's better to have a currency war than a real war with bullets. But Kim Ezekian is talking about a real war with China is coming, folks. So don't be surprised about it, and really try to dissect what the narrative from mainstream media is on how and why we get to this point. China has been aggressive in the South China Sea. This is coming. This is coming. You need to prepare your minds for it, because they are going to tell us something, right? Remember, weapons of mass destruction. We have to go in. You realize John Kennedy wanted no part of troops being in Vietnam? They kill him. Johnson takes over. What do? We escalate just another meaningless, unnecessary war. And again, good American soldiers died. And for what? For what? This is a critical time for President Trump to take action. And obviously, a lot changes. This was December 18th. A lot changes between December 18th and today, but it's still an interesting read. The real source of inequality. This is a fantastic read, and we've got charts in here, but this, I want to make sure I quote who this is. Yeah, this is Brian Maher, and it talks about wages for the top 1% skyrocketed 160% since 1979. Wages for the tip top 0.1% jumped 345% across that same 41-year period. 345%. What about the 90% beneath them? And how much of the wages increased a mere 26% in 41 years. Think about that. That's not keeping pace with inflation. We've talked about if you were to buy an F-150 in 1973, how many hours do you have to work? We've talked about if you were to buy a 3-bedroom ranch in 1973, how many hours do you have to, per square foot, your housing, do you have to work? And it is significantly more. To give you an example, you had to work about 600 hours to purchase and pay for of F-150 in 1973. Today, you have to work about 1,600 hours. It's more than 2 times the exchange of your time for money. It's something we need to really be aware of and have conversations. The science is but a hypothesis. Dr. Alfred is really making a great point. When Bill Nye wants to get on and tell me that I'm wrong, that I'm a climate change denialist. No, I have an earth science minor from the University of Michigan, Flint. I am not a denialist. What I am is a person that learned from the University of Michigan that 90%, it's 87 to 89% of the carbon emissions on our planet are from the erosion of limestone, our mountain ranges. When an earthquake occurs and opens up the earth, it is when a volcano erupts. Do you realize that every volcano eruption puts more into our atmosphere than human beings through the industrial age times, and pick a big number, because you can't figure it out. It's a hypothesis. Those same people that are telling us that the ocean levels, New York City is going to be underwater in 20 years if we don't do something now. Those same people are buying oceanfront properties. Those same people, the Obamas, who are telling you that you have to make this change, just bought a $10 million plus estate on Martha's Vineyard. Do they really think that the ocean levels are going to swallow up their house in the next 20 years? No. Just like they really don't think that this virus is a threat to them. That's why Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein is just a year younger than you, Harold. And she's walking around an airport with no mask on because she's got the intel. This is all part of a great reset. And I'm telling you, I'm not saying that people don't really get sick. But my pain is, in Western medicine in general, that they've so sold out to the pharmaceutical companies. It is against the law for you or I or anybody else to say that anything that is non-pharmaceutical can prevent, treat, or cure an ailment. And we've let that happen. I'll say that one more time in case you missed it. It is against the law for us to say that anything that is not a pharmaceutical can prevent, treat, or cure an ailment. And we know that, if you did not stay up and watch the Ingram angle during the initial part, maybe the first 3 months of the pandemic, then you missed great debate and conversation about whether or not hydroxychloroquine is a legitimate cardiac issue. That drug has been around for 65 years. It's as safe as anything the FDA puts their stamp on. The FDA, you can say it's the Federal Death Administration, or you could call it the Food and Drug Administration, but it's been around for more than 65 years, and you had cardiologists on the Ingram angle night in and night out saying, of course you're going to apply this under the supervision of a doctor, but the cardiac issues are so minimal, it's not even worth discussing. And the great Barrington Declaration, and then you just had the guy in front of the Senate within the last month saying they've got another drug from 2015 that has, no side effects. And yet we keep listening to how, that's blasphemy. You can't say that. We don't have anything. We have to put billions of dollars into creating a vaccine, or else this is going to be the worst thing ever. Yes, Ben.
I watch YouTube videos for some reason. The military MREs. I enjoy watching this guy open old military MREs.
Yep.
And he was opening one from the 1950s, and there are hydroxychloroquine tablets in the MREs in case they're ever in a jungle environment.
Yeah, malaria.
Yeah.
So the thing is that this other drug that the doctor testified in front of the Senate, and he's just painfully saying, look, yeah, our hospital staffs need a break because we're not addressing this in the right fashion. We have two drugs that have almost 100% success rate, and you're not letting us use it. The federal government is not letting it be used. And so I just really think we need to pay attention.
Jim, I think the other drug you're talking about is ivermectin.
Okay, yeah. 2015 it was created, and they've had great success with it since. And again, it is it has anti-inflammatory properties and
very well said.
Again, anti-malaria, upper respiratory benefits. Albert Einstein taught us that time is relative to each observer. And another note on here on this article, time moves slower when things happen faster. Applying this concept to life and the markets, 3 implications from 2020's wild ride. Great investors tend to do certain things better than others. The future is worse than unpredictable. And with the rest of my time, I want to be something of value to others. So this is a good article to read as well. And then I talked about this, this piece of paper. What does this piece of paper say? It is Doug TeNapel in exile. He's got a YouTube channel. I checked him out. And it talked about Biden got 5% more votes with these particular machines. And right underneath that, it has a thing that comes up because what he's talking about. They're trying to tell you that that's not true. It says U.S. elections, the Electoral College has confirmed Joe Biden as president-elect. And then it says, show me with this big button so that you would hope to go onto it. And underneath that, it says the states certify results after ensuring ballots are properly counted and correcting irregularities and errors. That's what they are telling you to believe. How many? Raise your hand right now if you truly believe that statement from YouTube. That these voting irregularities and these voting irregularities and errors have all been corrected before they certified that. The thing is that 80% of the people that voted Republican do not believe it. 30% of the independents and about 25% of Democrats do not believe that statement. And you have every single day that passes, you have more and more evidence. It's not anecdotal. And we don't know if it would change the outcome of an election or not. But don't we want to know so that we can believe in the outcome of election? Yes, Razor.
So you're telling me that the Supreme Court and all the way down were all wrong when they said they weren't taking on this court challenge because there was no validity to it?
Yes, they are wrong because they've never actually taken any action. They've never been willing to look at any of it. They have failed. The Supreme Court and all of the courts have failed our constitutional republic miserably. So,
yeah, didn't they say they weren't questioning, they weren't ruling on whether or not it happened?
no, they just didn't want to hear it. They said it didn't have any standing. When it gets to them, it needs to already been a presented case before they can do.
Because the
So,
left is implying, okay, well, they didn't take it, so therefore
yeah,
we're
no, right.
Are they saying that there's nothing here to even investigate?
Let's, if we can, let's get to these conversations here in a minute. I want to get through a few things. So, one of the other things, and this is the reason why I think it's important to have conversations and to talk about what the truth is. When I was driving on January 6th on that Wednesday, I'm driving down the road. I get a phone call from a couple of people. They're like, hey, are you in front of a TV? Are you watching this? I'm like, watching what? And they said, the protesters are storming the Capitol. They broke windows. They're vandalizing. They're going to burn this place down. They've already shot one woman. They're fighting with police officers. I'm like, what? No way. No way. This is crazy. So they also told me that President Trump told them to go there. That President Trump incited the riot. Well, here's what the truth is. The truth is, I considered going to Washington, D.C. a week ago. And so when I was looking at all of this stuff, I was wanting to know who's marching, where do they start at, how do I set this thing up? Every one of the protest marches were planning on going to the Capitol. So for somebody to say, you guys are missing out on some really great stuff here. For somebody to say that President Trump told these people to go to the Capitol building, I've got proof right here. Every single march started in different places. They were all going to end up at the Capitol. It was already happening. President Trump decided, hey, we've got all these people coming. I'll speak. I'll join the party. I listened. Harold, you called me that day at 6 o'clock. And you said, hey, he never once told him to go over there and break into that building. Never once. He never told him to do anything violent. Well, if that's the case, and I listened to it later, and he didn't, and then I'm listening to people say that the president said, go over there. They were all already going over there. I just happened to print one out so that you could read it if you wanted to. Every single one of the different marches that were starting out in different places, and Steve, you've been there. You have to kind of put together a plan in that city, and then I mean, people, their cars were locked in garages, parking garages, they didn't get them out. I mean, because the city was locked down. If I would have driven to Washington, D.C. and then tried to drive back home and then work the next day, I'd have been stuck there. I'd have been sleeping in my truck until they let me out on the street. How, isn't this crazy to anybody else? It's crazy to me that we would believe the lies that they continue to tell us. Remember, those same media sources told us on a regular basis that there was Russia collusion, that it was going to be overwhelmingly proven. It never happened. Why would you still watch those same people? Just because of time. Just because of time. I'm not going to get into full story time. But I want to share with you when it talks about weeks where decades happen. And it talks about Vladimir Lenin. And it says there are decades where nothing happens, and then there are weeks where decades happen. And I want you to be aware of the fact that Einstein had that theory. We talked about it a little bit ago. Einstein had that theory of relativity. And then another brilliant person, and I can't think of his name right now, and I should if I'm going to talk about him, but you can look it up. Quantum physics. Quantum physics tells you that you can know the speed of something and you can know the location of something, but you can't know both. With technology, things happen exponentially faster than what we originally thought. Now, I will say this. Ray said to me the other day, we had some things going on, and if you work with me, even today, I try to put 10 pounds of stuff into a 5-pound bag every single day. I try to do a lot of stuff. And one of the things that I end up doing is I'm going a little bit faster than a lot of people around me. And Ray says to me the other day, he said, you know, when we were kind of planning out the day, we were filling up the gas, and he started laughing. He said, you know what? You're not happy unless you're going 100 miles an hour with your hair on fire. And I said, well, I don't know about that, but I will tell you this. In physics, an object in motion stays in motion. We also know that the faster you go, the slower you age. Now, I've damaged my body. I should have been a little smarter younger. However, if you had two identical twins, one staying on Earth, and you launch the other one, and you go as fast as you can, let's say you go light speed, and you come back after light speed travel across the galaxy and back. Again, I know this is a little bit Star Wars, Star Trek kind of stuff here, but that twin will be noticeably younger. And it might be 10 years later, but it won't age as fast. They tell us that traveling at great speeds, you age slower. Okay. The things that we need to try to do in a given day, in a given week, planning our calendar, and I talked about this before. If you have not already put together some goals for 2021, I encourage you to do so. Write them down. And if you can remember to say them to yourself every day when you get up, it will make a difference. The last thing is the elves of capitalism. And this talks